What's going on YouTube? It's been a little while. We got a new garage, whole new property, house. That's why it's been a little while. I've been a little bit busy. The old place I was renting, they sold it, so I had to leave there in like 30 days. It was kind of a big mess. But it worked out because I got this place, which is bigger. Gonna be working on this today, just to catch you up. I know a lot of people want to see this little Buick motor here. This thing I got back. It's probably going to be a little bit before I start on that, but I do have that motor from Kenny Duttweiler. If you don't know who Kenny Duttweiler is, he's the man who builds the engine for the fastest land speed vehicle on the planet. But enough about that. Today I want to work on my 96 Camaro. Summertime is going to be here this month later on, and I want to drive this car, enjoy it. It started to do this thing where when it gets warm and it idles for a little bit, it'll start running kind of rough, and then it dies, and then it won't restart. Or if you shut it off hot, it won't restart. I've been looking at it, put a fuel pressure gauge on it. My fuel pressure was only at like 28 psi. It's supposed to be like around 40, 43 at like full throttle, maybe a little bit less when it's idling. But it was down in the 20s, and I think what was happening was the regulator wouldn't open because the pressure never reached the right amount. So when the regulator doesn't open, the fuel doesn't circulate. And when the fuel doesn't circulate, it gets warm enough in here to boil the fuel. And then there's a bunch of air in the fuel lines, and then it don't run no more. So in order to fix that, we're gonna go ahead and drop this tank and get the fuel pump out and swap that out. So I jacked it up under the rear end. And then you're gonna wanna put your jack stands not on the rear end or the control arm. You want to put it like right here on the frame or here, anywhere. But you want to let the rear end hang down. You need the rear end to hang down pretty low so that you can get it out of the way. And then you want to drop your muffler too, probably. And then you should have room to get the gas tank out. So here we are under the car. What we're going to do first is we're going to drop this exhaust a little bit and get rid of a couple of these bars in the way. So this is your panhard bar here. I'm going to take this off, and then this bar that goes on top too. So it's just these two bolts here, a bolt here, and then there's three up here. So I'm going to grab those on the muffler here. I got two bolts here. And then I got one bolt right here. So I'm gonna take these two bars, we'll drop this muffler down, and then there's this little heat shield. You got a screw there, and you got a screw here and a screw right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop these bars out, muffler, heat shield, and then we'll be back. For the exhaust, we actually only had to take this one bolt. This side here, you can slide it out without removing the bracket. I did come over here, pop these two bolts out for the sway bar. And then all you really got to do now is take out these shock ones on each side, and then the rear end will drop down, but you're going to want to put a jack under it so it doesn't just fall. So like I said, the rear end, just those two bolts left. To get the exhaust down, we got to come up front a little bit. We got two bolts here, this one here, and another one right above it. It's like a mount that kind of connects to the back of your transmission. We'll pop both those out. I may have to take this out too because your exhaust may rest on there. I'm not sure how low that will make it. I went ahead and emptied the tank. They're so much easier when they're empty because you don't have to mess with the weight. It's pretty easy to do. I popped the fuel line down there. Just pop that off of your fuel filter. I just put it in a gas can. And then if you come over here, this is your computer. And your factory connectors here, this little guy right here, if you jump, take a piece of wire or something, I have a tool that you put it in there and it'll send power to it. But just any kind of wire, run that to the hot, and that runs your fuel pump. So I put the line in the in a gas can, and I just ran that hot until the tank was empty. So we got the tank empty. We're gonna drop that mount on the transmission, get that exhaust down, and then we'll get this rear end lowered, and then we should be able to drop the tank. I took this bolt loose here. This is a bracket. It's got your brake hose on it. When you hang your rear end real low, you don't want to stretch out this brake hose here. So that's why I took this bracket loose, so it's got a little more room. I got the shocks loose, and I got the front exhaust loose, so we're ready to drop this rear end. So your coil springs are just going to fall out. Just don't let them hit you in the head or nothing, but we'll go ahead and drop this down. And then, like I said, the exhaust is loose up front, so we're just kind of half sitting on this hanger here. So let's go ahead and slide that out. And then this will drop down. Go ahead and get this out of here. Now we got plenty of room to get this tank out. It's just 2 bolts. There's just these 2 bolts, this one here and that one there. And this tank will drop out. On these LT1s, you got a charcoal canister right here. There's a little plastic cover I took out. There's 2 hoses on your charcoal canister. You want to take those loose. You want to take this little plastic, take your gas cap off, and take 2 screws out of this. Take this thing out of here. There's your charcoal canister. Just take both these hoses right here. Make sure those are off. Those can slide out with the tank. I got this. This is your return line here. I dropped the feed line off the fuel filter. I dropped that off when I drained the tank. So I just gotta pop this one off. The rest of this stuff's ready to go. And then unplug this connector here. So yeah, I'm gonna pop this line off, 2 bolts, and we'll drag this thing out of here. Okay, we got both bolts out, and now we're just gonna go ahead and pull this out. Now you got a filler neck on this side, so you're gonna have to drop it down and bring it to the passenger side to get that neck to slide out. Like I said, I highly recommend draining the tank. It's just so much easier to mess with when it's light. You don't want a bunch of weight above your head. And this thing's probably stuck in here from just being, you know, staying in this position for so long. I think it's stuck on the rubber. It doesn't want to budge. Good little pry bar, and I'll pry on it, it'll pop right out. Boy, that's weird. Usually they'll fall right out with gravity. This thing's been up here for decades, it doesn't want to come out. What's wrong with this thing? There's like a strip of rubber they put between there to keep it from, you know, bouncing around, keep it nice and quiet. And I think that rubber's gotten old and kind of stuck now. I'm just gonna have to manhandle it, I guess. I got some welding gloves so I don't cut my hand on the sheet metal. Starting to move a little bit. It's just stuck on this rubber, little rubber strips up in here. just hang from this freaking thing. It's so stuck in there, which is crazy. There we go. Pop at least a little bit. Oh, finally. That was stupid. Once you get that done, slide right out. I'm gonna go ahead and get this pump out, and then we'll go ahead and figure out an upgrade. And I picked up this fuel pump from Aeromotive. It is a 18074. This thing looks pretty sweet. I haven't opened it yet. They also offer a 200 liter per hour one. This is the 340. Oh yeah. That looks pretty cool. So we got billet aluminum. Very nice. We got some nice thick electrical connections here. I'm sure this is much better than this, what you would find in this plug here. And this goes right into your tank. You got a brand new fuel sender. My gas gauge was reading off. I'm sure most of these older cars, they're not so accurate anymore. So I'm glad to see that on there. And that's a really nice unit. We got your feed and your return are a -6 AN fitting. So I got a couple hoses that's going to replace these plastic ones here. I got some nice steel braided AN hoses and a quick connect adapter, so that it will just replace this whole setup here. And we'll go ahead and get this dropped into my tank, and we're not going to have any more fuel pressure problems, I don't think. This thing should be a little bit of a beast. Let's see what else we got in here. Does come with the new gasket and a metal ring. I'm not sure what that's for, because that's not the right style. That's like a one that twists on. I'm not sure why. We'll have to reuse the old one, because it actually bolts onto the tank. So I don't know why we have this other one, but we'll use this gasket and this. So I got it slid in the tank, snug down. I mean, I didn't film it because it's pretty simple. You just drop it in, snug it down. To replace the factory lines, this looks like it says 2360 Force ID hose. This is like a high pressure fuel injection hose. There's not high pressure in here, but I like using it because it doesn't clamp down. These don't really pinch. You can make bends with it, and it doesn't really pinch like a lower pressure hose would. And then I have 2 -6 AN hoses to replace my feed line here. This This goes to the fuel filter. This is a 4-foot section. That's about what the old one was. And then we got the adapter to a 3/8 quick connect. That should clip right onto the fuel filter. And then we have, for the return line, we have a 30-inch -6 AN hose with a 5/16 quick connector. And that's going to replace, here's the stock ones here. There's your feed line. And then your return line. Now, if you wanted to be cheap, you could have just ran it, just a, you know, a very short section, and then reuse your plastic one. But I figured we'd just replace the whole thing. These are old, so I don't know how brittle this plastic is getting. So the vent was here. I popped this little vent guy off the end of here. Now this one has a 4th line that goes to your charcoal canister. This does not have that. I imagine if you wanted to include it, you could probably just tee into this and run that to your charcoal canister. Yeah, that looks really nice. I didn't cut a trap door in this car, but I kind of want to, just so I could look at this. It's going to be a shame sticking that up in there where you're never going to see it again. But oh well. So now we got to get this thing wired up. This doesn't have like a factory style plug or nothing, so we're going to have to cut and use like a ring terminal on here. Your Racetronics hot wire kit. It's nice good sized wires in there to feed this pump. And I wanted, you know, the nice weather tight relays and all this stuff. We got it all wired up, so I think we're ready. Go ahead, toss it back in the car. I'm pretty sure the factory lines stayed up on that lip and then came out here on the side. This is the, I'm on the driver's side of the car. I thought they came out the side, but I don't think there's enough room. These are much fatter than the old steel lines. I don't think they would have fit. So I dropped them down kind of more in the middle here. And I can zip tie them up kind of where they go still. And they're not pinched or anything there, so that, I think that's what you have to do. My return line will go here. That looks like that's a nice fit. This here clips into this, so that's plenty of hose for that. And then this one, the feed line here goes to this fuel filter. Looks like I got plenty of hose, so I'll probably have to zip tie it up out of the way a little bit. Hook these lines up, and then I can get the new wiring harness. It's good for like 30 amps, whereas the stock fuel wiring was only like 15 amps. So that's going to be a nice upgrade too. I used a self-tapping screw to mount this relay. I went ahead and threw the ground wire on there as well. And all that's left is to take this wire here and run that to the alternator stud. I got my exhaust back up. I left the coil spring out so I could film this better, but I just got to button up the rear end and run that wire up, and she'll be running. So here we are under the hood. I ran the wire up through the back. I zip tied it to the fill tube here for your transmission, and then underneath the alternator, and then under across here by the battery, and then I mounted the little inline fuse right here, and then it went back under, and I put the terminal right there on the alternator stud. Here we are under the car. I just kind of zip tied the extra I had right here, and looks pretty nice. Oh. Well, so everything's installed, it's all wired up, ready to go, and everything's great now, right? No, it's not. Probably should have checked this before I started. I got a nice brand new part. It looked like it was well made. I just kind of assumed that I didn't need to check it, but we had a problem. We had a problem with this guy. That's why it's in my hand right now. It should be in my car still. I had to pull it back out. Here we have the level location and the level ground location. I'm gonna hook my meter up to this. Now this is supposed to vary between 0 and 90 ohms of resistance. So I actually did check this as soon as I installed it and plugged it all up. I turned the key on and I checked, and my gauge was reading empty when the tank was empty. So I went ahead and buttoned up the rest of the car, and then I put 5 gallons in it, and it was pegged way past full, which is not right. So if you look here on the meter, we got half a ohm, which is basically 0, which would be empty, which is good because the float's all the way down. And then if we move this up, move this float up, OL, that means there's no connection at all, which will peg your gauge way past full. And if you watch this float, it doesn't do anything. It's not working at all. So you got 0, and it'll go up to 1, and then nothing, and nothing, 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 and then way up at the top you get up near 90. So like 99% of this does nothing, as you can see. So I thought no big deal. You know, it kind of sucks I had to pull it back out, but you know, companies make mistakes all the time. Maybe this one's defective or bad or something, I don't know. I call them up, I say, hey man, your sending unit's not working. They're like, no problem, we'll send you a new one right out. So I got my new one. Right here, this little guy. Let's check this one. Go down here, we got nothing, nothing, nothing. It's nothing. Oh, wait, oh, there's 90. If you push on it, you can get it to work. See, it works now. But if you take a turn and it shifts a little bit, oh, it don't work no more. This is there's a lot of play on this. Let me take these leads off here. If you look in here, there's a lot of side-to-side play. See that? And when it goes away, which takes almost no force, when it goes away, it doesn't even touch. It's just kind of junk. So anytime you take a turn or something, it's not going to read. Your gas gauge isn't going to read. I'm not going to hit aeromotive up and ask for a 3rd one and a 4th one. I want to drive my car. I want to put it together. I want to drive it. This clearly is not going to work. This is a sending unit for a 99 Pontiac Grand Prix. If you have an LS tank, if you get a tank out of a 99 to 02 F body, you can put it into your LT1 car or your 3rd gen. It'll work great with the tank and everything. It bolts right into this 3rd gen, but the gas gauges are different on the LS cars. They have different ohms. It's not compatible with your factory cluster. But if you buy this 99 Grand Prix sending unit, it's a direct install into an LS car. But in this case, I'm going to make it work on this thing because I already have it wired up. I already have it plumbed up. I just want it to work. So it's not going to be that hard to attach this to that little piece of metal there. and hopefully the arm fits, clips right in there, and I'll be in business. But we learned our lesson, so let's check this one, make sure it works okay. Here we are, all the way one direction. We got 1 ohm, 10, teens, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, all the way up to 90. And it doesn't skip. I can take it, I can wiggle it back and forth. It never stops working, which is how it's supposed to work. So GM's figured out how to make it. This is an aftermarket reproduction of a factory Grand Prix model. This costs a whopping $25. I got this off Amazon. It's made by Herco. The part number is GFC31. So pull this off of here. Looks like we got a zip tie right here. Cut that guy off. Okay, then we just got a couple Phillips screws right there. Now I'm hoping this float wire is the same size. I can just clip it in the other one. Okay, there's that. Ha. Very nice. So this wasn't too hard to modify. Just had a little piece of stainless here. Drilled a couple holes. I'll just take this here, and I got a couple screws and washers I'll put right there to hold that tab down. And then we got our pivot point right here where it was, so should be the same as before, except for I'll actually read how much fuel I have now. Okay, so here we are with the new sending unit. You can see it's reading 1.4 ohms, so that should be empty. And as we fill the tank, look at that, beautiful. There's no jumps or anything in it. It just keeps getting larger and larger all the way up to 90, which is that'd be full. So gas gauge should work beautifully. Alrighty, I'm gonna drop this back in the tank. Okay, sending unit's fixed, everything's back in. We are here at the moment of truth here. Let's see what we got. This is where the fuel gauge was reading. More ohms makes it more full, and when you have it open like that, it's going to peg as far as it can. So hopefully, I turn the key, it's just going to go back down. I got just a few gallons in it. It probably should be maybe 1/8 of a tank or something. Let's see what we got. You hear that fuel pump kick on. Oh, look at that. This thing, when I bought it, the original gauge never read right. So I'm happy to see this. There we go, 1/8 of a tank. Cool. It's only got a few gallons in it, so that's about where that should lie. And I'm gonna cycle this a few times, get this fuel pressure built up. We should have, I think we were at 28 psi when we started this with the old pump. Let's see what we got now. What we got, 38. It's right where it should be. Kind of sucked I had the sending unit problem, but I'm glad that I went with that, because they make ones that you can put in your stock sending unit, but then you're still going to be running through these stock little bitty wires here. I don't know that 30 amps, I don't know, it doesn't seem like a great idea. And it's billet and stuff, and it's a lot nicer. So, and that should be a pretty nice pump too. That pump should handle plenty of power. Now this thing is bone stock, right down to the paper air filter, and we're going to be changing that. So I'm going to need the extra fuel pump to meet my needs. So I think that's going to be it for now. I got to put this SS hood on. I got the shift kit. That'll probably be my next video, dropping that shift kit in there. And we got some other stuff to do, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all next time.